All right, good morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. We got a boisterous crowd this morning. I love that. See? You know it's going to be a good day when it's hard to get you guys chased down out of the lobby. There's all these great conversations going on, and of course that is a big part of 1 Million Cups. My name's Evan Anderson. I'm with Gizmonics. I get to be your MC this morning, and thank you for being here, and thanks for those streaming out on YouTube this morning as well. I always like to ask, how many of you have never been to a 1 Million Cups? Okay. All right. Cool. Well, welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. So with that in mind, I'd like to at least tell you what your friends got you into here. So what is 1 Million Cups? This is our 13th year of doing this. We put an entrepreneur, a community builder, somebody that's doing something exciting, interesting, cool in our community. We put them on this stage and we let them tell their story. And at the end, there's an opportunity for us to interact, ask some questions. And the whole idea here is we're really trying to change the face of our startup community, over 1 million cups of coffee, make some connections, and have a little bit of fun along the way. So that is what we're doing here. That's not what you signed up for, you can leave, but I'd really prefer you stay because it's going to be fun today. We got a great presentation. Okay, we have kind of changed the format of our slides for our sponsors, and I am really excited to announce this is our Venti. Venti? Is that how you pronounce that? I make my own coffee. Am I close on that? Anyway, we've kind of adopted the coffee size thing. So anyway, our big sponsors are here, and we have a brand new one this week. Sanstead Law Offices. They were on our stage last week. They contacted us hours after they got off stage and said, hey, we'd really like to sponsor 1 Million Cups. We'd love to see what you guys are doing, and we want to sponsor you. So thank you so much to Sanstead Law Offices for that. We very, very much appreciate it. Makes a big difference for our 13th year. And also, we have 2 other sponsors in that category. And then we have our grande sponsors and sponsor. And then we have our tall sponsors. So these folks have all actually pitched in a little cash to help us pay our rent, help us buy coffee, help us put on events like our end of year event, those kinds of things. And then we have our in-kind sponsors. And these are companies that allow their staff to come and spend time on the organizing committee to help make all of this happen. Making coffee, we have a new one there. Oh, Nomi Promo. All right, man, that's right, Ashley. Right, yeah, and she just got her name badge today, so congratulations. I know she doesn't like the spotlight, but all right, good job. Shh. Okay. All right. So, as I mentioned, we're going to have Q&A at the end. So, I always say this, and sometimes it doesn't really work out. So, I'm really going to ask again, be thinking about your questions when Donovan's talking so that when Ross is running this microphone around at the end, you can throw your hand up and ask that great question, because that's part of the meat of all of this is the questions that we're going to be able to challenge Donovan with here today. So, please be thinking about those. All right, we've got a host of community announcements this morning. First, we always like to talk about the National Day. No Marlo today. We've got hot pastrami sandwich. I'm hearing some like, oh yeah. All right. Well, you just don't leave yet, but as soon as we leave here, go get yourself a hot pastrami sandwich. So that is a pretty good photography there, I got to say. All right. All right, and David, if you want to come and talk to this slide, I know you've got to get rolling, so we're going to.
Good morning, guys. My name is David St. Peter. It's kind of fun to be back here. 5 years ago, we were here talking about this program that we started. Back then, we called it Innovation Pathway, and now we call it Empowered. But one of the things we're doing up at the Bismarck Career Academy and at Legacy High School is we have students opting into a personalized competency-based way to get their core credits. Through that, one of our requirements every year has been that they do community projects. So some of you might have been fortunate enough to get the really awkward phone calls that I make them make to start the school year, where they're like, hey, I'm a kid at Empowered, and they're like really nervous and they don't know what to say. So I've always had this dream where you guys come to us to pitch your problem. So our community project pitch is pretty simple. We have a lot of students, about 130, with time, capacity, and interest in helping you, and they're required to do it by me. But we have done all kinds of things. I think we're up to about 140 or 150 different projects we've completed over the 5 years that benefit your organizations in our community. This end of this month, I'm asking you guys to come to our site at the Bismarck Career Academy and pitch your back burner problems to us. That's been our sweet spot, is back burner work, because they're high schoolers. They can take time, they can fail. If it's mission critical stuff, we don't want to negatively impact your work. But if you have something that's been eating away at you that would be really nice to have done, we've got a lot of students who have, like I said, time and capacity where they'd love to help you. So if you have any interest, feel free to scan this. You can ask Evan for my contact info, or I left a bunch of flyers out in the lobby, and I'll be back next week to remind you that this is an option. Thanks. Oh, sure. A couple examples. Right now, this fall, we had like 42 projects going on. Tomorrow afternoon, there's 3 learners who are working with Baptist Baptist, the old people's place, you know what I'm talking about, where they are, they're interviewing residents to share their story. So my students are conducting basically interviews with residents where they're filming them, and they're going to cut it together for like kind of a memory piece that they could share with the resident's family. That's a really fun one. Our big one that we were really proud of last year, and I think is maybe why you heard about this, is we partnered with the Chamber EDC. Their refuse enclosure doors were kind of unsightly, and there was also like a homeless guy who had encamped himself in there, and so they just needed a way to get those fixed and looking nice again. So I have a bunch of students who are into welding and auto collision and graphic design and all these things that can have real cool real world applications. So they fixed up those doors, they took them off, they sandblasted them, they repainted them, they fixed the welds, and they fixed those dumpster doors over at the enclosure, or at the chamber. And then one other one I guess I would say is, let's see, what do I got a group doing? We have a group working with the, what's it called? Game and Fish Department. There's like lots of work across town that they can do with them. So one that we have kids working on this winter is working on fixing some like bow racks for one of those sites where people can practice their archery, and also putting in like a new concrete slab for where they are designated to shoot from. So I'll share a website with Evan after this that he can maybe send out that has a whole story map of our first 100 projects and where we've been across town and what we've done. That might be helpful. But thanks for considering.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, if you get Brenda Nagel going at Chamber EDC, she'll spend a half an hour telling you about those doors. She's so excited about the work that these kids did. So thank you, David. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, Janya, Mug Club.
All right, a lot of you heard me last week, but the color for this year, the color sticker is black. So we're trying kind of a little bit of a new spin on our Mug Club. And Evan, if you would go to the next. And I got a suggestion last week, and I took it to heart. So I know I talked about this last week, but I changed it up just a wee bit. So for those first 3 levels, the sticker, the notebook and pen, and the leather coaster, I'm looking for those black stickers, which means you've come that many times in 2026. But as you start to get into those upper level things like the t-shirt, the cutting board, and the Golden Mug Award, of course, all stickers are welcome of any sticker color. And there have been quite a number over the years because some of you have been accumulating and really working on that collection. And how dare me to cut you off at the knees and say, no, it's all got to be in 2026. So I had a change of heart and went, what am I doing? I'm killing our loyal, folks. So that's where we're at. And I'm pleased to announce that already this morning, the first person literally who came through the door, I put the 20th sticker on his mug, and yes, and ran upstairs and got him the t-shirt in the right size, and he went for a long sleeve, which is also quite sexy. All right, I think I'm done now, and I still have a few ornaments left over from our Christmas party. So this is your last day. If you'd like any of these, come down and see me right after 1MC, and we'll get them in your hands. They're collectible, but that's limited time offer.
Thank you, Shania. All right, you, Mary, asked if I could cover this for them. This is a new book club that they just came up with called Rise and Thrive, and it starts. This is the very first one is on January 27th. Their first book is Atomic Habits. I don't know how many of you have read Atomic Habits. An awesome book. And I think even if you have read it, as you know, this would be a good opportunity to actually revisit it, but also have some good conversation about it. It's a great book in terms of building the habits you want to build. They're going to have group discussions, and it is right down the street at UMary's new East Front, 500 East Front location. So write that down. All right, Mark. You're actually here this week. That's good. You left me standing here last week. Yeah.
But you're so much better at this than I am anyway. Mark Wagner with the North Dakota Women's Business Center. All of you are aware of Giving Hearts Day, and what you may not be aware of is that the Women's Business Center is a nonprofit agency in and of itself. And so we're always looking for a little bit of help to do the things that we do in support of entrepreneurs, specifically for this type of crowd. And it's not just women, so just everybody can be involved. That's what we want to make sure you know. But if you can help us out, these are the kind of things. So 2025, over 1,200 clients we worked with, 6,600 hours, about 4,500 in-person impressions throughout the state and the different programs we do. So that's just a little bit about it and where that money would go. So during Giving Hearts, if you're thinking about you got a few extra dollars that you want to put somewhere, we'll gladly take it. So North Dakota Women's Business Center Giving Hearts Day. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. All right. We have someone here? Yes.
I'm Lane Hoffer. I'm with the Abuse Adult Resource Center. We are doing the Galentine's Day brunch, February 8th. It's going to be in Mandan at the Baymont Inn. It's on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm sorry. I know some people, but it's before the I know Super Bowl's an all day long thing, but it's 11 to 2. So if you can sneak out for that, like this is going to be an awesome event. It's our big fundraiser for the Abuse Adult Resource Center. So, and if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a very good cause. We do domestic violence, and then people that are in crisis. We also have shelters, lots of different things. So the QR code's there for the tickets, and then any questions, just come find me.
Thank you. Tyler.
Good morning, Tyler DeMars here on behalf of the Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library, the Bismarck Library Foundation. Our team at the library does an awesome job of putting together some pretty neat community events. This one we have coming up January 24th. It's an arts and craft supply swap. So if you set one of your New Year's resolutions to declutter a little bit, this is a great opportunity to do some decluttering. Of course, you'll notice it's a swap, so the vulnerability is you might leave with twice as much as you came with, so you have to exercise some restraint.
What can you all donate or bring?
Anything in the arts and crafts space, so it's that's it. It's for the arts and crafts community, you bet. And this is part of a larger effort. Winterfest kicks off. It's a month-long celebration of winter in Bismarck, Mandan, and the surrounding area. This is organized largely by the Northern Plains Heritage Foundation, but it kicks off January 18th. If you go to winterfest.org, there's a whole lineup of events happening over the next month. I'd encourage you to check that out. This is one of the events, and they help kind of set the parameters on this. So yeah, it is arts and crafts centric. Also on January 24th, this is a vintage book sale coming up at the library, supporting the Friends of the Bismarck Public Library. So if you are looking for some nice weathered books that smell like mahogany, this might be a good option for you. You'll notice it's the same date at about the same time, so you could do your arts and crafts swap and your vintage book sale, and that makes for a real nice Saturday at the library. So come check it out. Two great events. Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. All right, Ben.
We have an art show coming up here. It's kind of geared towards people who like to have fun or people who are looking to learn how to have fun and have fun. It should be fun, but it's happening this Friday, and it'll be 5 to 8, or if it goes longer, that's fine by me, right next to the Pro Grill. So it's the tall white building with the red trim. And come hungry, because I'll have jerky there for you. So.
Thank you, Ben. This is Ben's first art show. The little video we played right before I got up here with the 1 Million Cups logo being created, that was Ben's handiwork, actually. So we're gonna be there, Ben. It's gonna be fun. All right, I think that is all of our announcements this morning. Let's jump in. All right. So, Donovan, I think without further ado, let's get you up here and telling your story. So, give it up for Donovan.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for spending your time and energy with me. This is really exciting for me. My name is Donovan Gibson. I'm one of the VP of Sales at Sovreign, and we are a Bitcoin-only company dedicated to education, number one, and secondly, helping small businesses and nonprofits integrate Bitcoin into their financial and operational models. Our mission is driven by educating people on the importance of sound money and integrating it into their businesses. Our money is our time and energy in abstract form. And as I speak at these things, a lot of times I get invitations in the spirit of, hey, there's this crazy guy who talks about magic internet money. Let's put him behind the podium and watch what happens. And a lot of those times, egos, perceptions, and feelings get challenged with new ideas. With any new innovation, that happens. One of my favorite websites as a guilty pleasure is called the Pessimist Archive. You go on that website, it talks about that back when the bicycle was invented, it would make women go crazy, or we would all develop this side eye as things passed in our periphery, making our eyes stick that way. Or if we walked by electrical poles, we'd magically get electrocuted by them. You know, things like that. We denied this transformative technology that helped propel humanity. And so we're kind of in that confluence right now with our money and how it pertains to Bitcoin. 1% of the global population know what Bitcoin is. So, and one of the requirements to speak here at 1 Million Cups, which I really thank you for, the thought of open discourse and free thought lives here, and I appreciate that opportunity to speak here. But one of the requirements is to not to be too sales focused. And I'm in this weird position of like, hey, 1% of the global population knows what Bitcoin is and what it does. So I don't want to sound too salesy, but I also want to talk about the importance of this as well. Our team, we are a diverse background of over 30 passionate, battle-hardened, battle-tested Bitcoiners. What does battle-hardened, battle-tested mean? We probably got a little too cute at one point in time and lost a lot of Bitcoin. Okay? And we learned the lesson the hard way. Everything, our backgrounds, our business consulting, strategic thought leadership, mining infrastructure, Bitcoin mining and infrastructure, security and custody experts. So we come from a very diverse background. You know, some of us are in education, tax accounting and regulation. So we treat it as a monetary asset, not this fun thing that you should play with in your business. Our services, treasury management strategies, financial planning and cash management, tax accounting, regulatory advice, payment system and integration. Perception versus reality. Okay. When we think of Bitcoin, what are your perceptions? When I talk to most people, this is what it is. Oh, it's cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is not crypto. Yes, it's a cryptocurrency, but not in the sense of the other 20,000 cryptos that are out there. Okay, and I'll explain more why. The reality is, Bitcoin, because of its sound monetary properties, is more real money, and it draws a close parallel to gold, whereas our monetary system, our fiat currency, is a lot like crypto. Centrally controlled, it's manipulated, the goalposts are always moving. So our PR guys are always telling us like, hey, nobody responds to charts. They want to hear stories. But here's a chart. Okay. Of the dollar losing 95% of its value since 1913. Here's another one. The delta between our GDP growth and our debt, which spans 350% to the bad side. Little context about Bitcoin, okay? A little bit of moon math here, okay? This is a 10-year compounded annual growth rate of Bitcoin relative to the other assets next to it. The S&P, real estate, treasury, CDs, money markets, high yield savings. This isn't really accounting for inflation. So it's more along the 50-60%, okay? Bitcoin has only been in existence for 17 years. So Bitcoin is enforced by a number of properties. And those that I'm going to speak about today are, I think, the 5 most important. There are 6 other properties that Bitcoin really codifies itself as sound money. But for the sake of time, I only have a few minutes. And also, AI said that you guys would only pay attention for 10 minutes anyway. So there's that, okay? So money, like I said, is our time and energy in abstract form, okay? But what happens when our time and energy is devalued and debased? We get less, okay? We have to work harder in our businesses. We're doing more with less. We get less time with our family, okay? Our food quality goes down because we can't afford the better food that has a higher nutritional value. It affects every facet of our lives. First of all, Bitcoin is decentralized. Bitcoin lives independently of the traditional financial system, okay? Our current money, definitely centralized, okay? That's all we hear on the news is about President Trump fighting with Fed Powell about lowering interest rates, moving the goalpost, and just dropping and raising interest rates. What's the price of money? Real estate, definitely centralized. Buying and selling a house, you can tell it's totally centralized. You know, it's not easy. Paperwork, the taxes when you sell it, taxes when you buy it, the taxes when you have it. You already bought it, why are you getting taxed again? Okay? Okay? It is permissionless. You don't need a financial institution's permission to use it. You can send and receive it without a middleman. Okay? It is a bearer asset. That means you get to hold on to it. Okay? It's like gold. You get to hold it. You can use it. You can transact with it through space and time digitally, very easy. Okay? No counterparty risk. So if you hold that Bitcoin on an exchange and that exchange fails, you lost your Bitcoin. Okay? That's why you pull it off that exchange and you hold it yourself. It is durable. It cannot be destroyed or confiscated. Okay? Real estate can be destroyed. This past summer taught us anything? Yes. You know, real estate can be destroyed. Your money can be confiscated. Our government has confiscated money before. In 1933, Executive Order 6102, where President Roosevelt called us all hoarders and took our gold. Okay? That can't happen with Bitcoin. Okay? It lives on a digital ledger that cannot be confiscated or destroyed. Bitcoin has survived nation-state bans, exchange collapses, mining exoduses, 15 years of adversarial pressure from various people. Elizabeth Warren, Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, saying that Bitcoin is going to zero. He's also the same guy that said the internet wasn't going to be a thing, so there's that. So Bitcoin also lives on a verifiable digital transparent ledger. It gets audited every 10 minutes. Think about a giant Excel spreadsheet every 10 minutes that shows all the transactions in each cell of that Excel spreadsheet. Can we say that about our Federal Reserve? Can we say that about Fort Knox? We can't. absolute scarcity, there will only be 21 million Bitcoin, and each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million units called Satoshis, or sats, as we say in the Bitcoin space. And this is where it's like gold, where it's durable and scarce, it's like gold, okay? And this is really important, a scarce asset that can't be inflated. And that's what protects its purchasing power, okay? And that's why it maintains its value. Real estate is scarce, but it's relatively scarce. If Dubai, the Boston Harbor, and South Beach, Miami have taught us anything, we can make more land if we really wanted to, okay? Gold is having a moment right now. I will acknowledge it. Great, okay? But you know what's also having a moment is the gold miners. Because now that that price is appreciating, those gold miners are firing up, increasing the gold supply 2% every year. So gold, relatively scarce. So I want to draw a parallel to our past and how it relates to Bitcoin and this once-in-a-century opportunity that is presented with us now, just like the homestead did back in 1862, okay? And this is something that I really thought about. I'm not from North Dakota, but I've explored the state. I love exploring the state. I've probably stayed at just about every state park in this town, and I love going to the little museums they have on the camps, and you learn so much about it. And this just made me think about North Dakota and its history and how it draws such a good, close parallel to Bitcoin and kind of embodies the same monetary principles as Bitcoin. So the Homestead Act from 1862 and 1915, you could roll into an office here in Bismarck and ask for up to 160 acres. And as long as you farmed that land, improved on it, built a house, fenced it, ranched it, after 5 years, that land became yours. Can you imagine? Hey, I'm here for my 160 acres. Here you go. Stanley, North Dakota, plot 162. Off you go. Just sounds crazy to me. But during that time, between 1862 and 1915, over 17.4 million acres claimed. That's around 40% of all the land mass in North Dakota. By 1934, over 118,000 homestead claims had been made. The rules were simple. File the paperwork, stake a claim, build a dwelling, produce on the land. And after 5 years, it was yours. I don't know if any of us have ever seen that movie Far and Away with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. I might be dating myself a little bit, but it's kind of about this same thing. They made it real dramatic. He had a really bad Irish accent. You know, I think this was also before the time he went full L. Ron Hubbard. But anyway, it was this big dramatic thing about him getting on a horse on the East Coast and coming out here and almost dying. And it really wasn't like that. You just walked to the office and got your paperwork and off you went. Spielberg is something else. So during that time, birth of a market, was there risk? Absolutely. And this is when homesteaders were living in what we call a high time preference. Survival, day to day. They didn't look years in the future. They thought about it, but every day was looking to the next, trying to survive, trying to make it. Was there volatility? Absolutely. Absolutely. Some years were better than others. You know, between warring tribes, bad winters, droughts, floods, infestations, and disease, it was hard. But was it worth it? After homesteads got established, volatility and risk diminished. Okay? And homesteads became this decentralized network that depended on each other for goods and services that didn't have any bailouts, there was no crop insurance, there were no government subsidies. You either succeeded or you had your blockbuster moment and that was it. During this time, after about 5 years, technology got a foothold. And Homestead had to adopt new technology in order to scale and thrive and grow. the gunpowder moment, technology. Okay? During this time, steel plow, mechanized reapers, railroads, dry farming. I could add probably 10 of these. You know, the rural mail system, telegraph, telephone. And those homesteads that adapted this technology thrived and grew and turned into what? From high time preference, surviving day to day, to low time preference. They now started looking not just in quarterly earnings, but maybe generations, their family, securing their family's wealth through generations. They had now a low time preference. They looked way into the future. From speculation to sovereignty. Look at North Dakota today. Top 5 and 9 types of crop production, ranked 2 to 3 in the nation's light oil crude production. We hold 25% of the country's coal reserves. Isn't that wild? I had no idea. And so Bitcoin provides the same opportunity for self-determination and individual sovereignty as the Homestead Act did 164 years ago. Here's where we are with Bitcoin adoption. Like I said before, less than 1% of the world knows and has adopted Bitcoin. The timeline is similar to the internet in 1995. I might be dating myself, but if any of you had to deal with dial-up, you guys remember that? And that abhorrent frequency that just made this, is that it? Yeah. Made that terrible noise that just like made you want to kick your cat and put your hand in a garbage disposal and listen to Barry Manilow at the same time, you know? It's awful. Okay. The cell phone in 2002. If you were rich, you had the cool BlackBerry, but if you were poor like me, you had that Nokia brick that had the antenna that was like a self-defense weapon, and if you put it in your pocket and sat down, you poked a hole in your kidney and you were sitting in the emergency room. And the Homestead Act of 1867, 5 years after the Homestead Act has been established, when volatility and risk started to diminish and it started to establish and the network effect started to happen. That's where we're at with Bitcoin. So my message today is you're still early. And at the price today of $94,000 cost per Bitcoin over 17 years, I'm telling you, you are still early and you have not missed it. So I showed you this chart earlier. Here's the real one. Here's the real one. On the right side, the blue and the red are inflation metrics. The blue is through the Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI, Consumer Price Index, or as Bitcoiners we like to call it, CPLI. Okay? Okay? They take a basket of goods, price them, and say, oh, hey, here's your standard of living, here's what your taxes are, or your inflation rate. So what do I mean by that? So some of the basket of goods. And that metric has been changed about 8 or 9 times. When it first started, meat was categorized as steak. Okay? Now it's not steak. It might be Vienna sausages at this point. I don't know. Okay? But it's not steak. And that metric basically says, hey, you need to be okay with living with a less standard of living. Okay? The inflation metric on the right is from a company called shadowstats.com. CPI, a lot of CPI doesn't account for energy, some food, some education. The red one on the right does. Okay? So if you look at that inflation metric compared to these other things, we are losing purchasing power. We are losing purchasing power. We're not able to project and think in a sense of low time preference generationally because we're losing our purchasing power on the daily. And that is why Bitcoin exists. 99% of people don't understand Bitcoin because they don't understand the problem it solves. And we're all made to think that, hey, these problems of housing shortages, grocery prices going up, are all small compartmentalized problems. They're not, okay? It's because our money is designed to lose value. Bitcoin has lost, or the S&P has collapsed 88% in terms of Bitcoin since 2020. The American dream, buying a house, priced in Bitcoin, has gone down. When you change your metric of your unit account to Bitcoin, things get cheaper. Bought a house in 2019, humble $200,000 home. Bought it, I told the real estate agent, hey, this thing costs 22 Bitcoin. Today, my house at that price is worth a little over 2. My life has become cheaper because I use Bitcoin as a unit of account. Where are we at today? The problems in Bitcoin today are very different from 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it was exchange collapses, rug pulls, scams, those kinds of things. Global tailwinds. Our largest institutions, our governments, nation states are like, hurry up, we need to adopt this thing. Okay, that is what is happening right now. Harvard triples Bitcoin holdings to 443 while retail investors panic sell. Harvard, the H doesn't stand for hedge fund anymore. Okay, 100 public companies put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. We established the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the United States Digital Asset Stockpile. Bitcoin is apolitical. It doesn't care. It's going to do what it does, whether it's got political alignment from the red or political alignment from the blue. It doesn't care. It's going to keep doing what it does, no matter what. Okay? So the other thing is our largest banks over the last 18 months have done a 180-degree pivot from their stance on Bitcoin. JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Wells Fargo, PNC, Vanguard, whose CEO less than a year ago said, we'll never touch this thing, got fired. And now they're all pro-Bitcoin. Okay? Now, here's where the banks are banking, see what I did there? Are banking on your laziness. Okay? Because we all use banks. I use a bank. Okay? Holds my money. Yes. Okay. They're banking on you to give them their Bitcoin to do what banks do, which is rehypothecate those funds that get deposited there and to keep that going. So my message today is, if you get involved with Bitcoin, you take care of your Bitcoin. That needs to belong to you. Don't give it to somebody else. Okay? What is our biggest obstacle as a Bitcoin company? And it's FUD. We call it fear, uncertainty, doubt. If you're in the Bitcoin space or you're a Bitcoiner, you hear this often. What is some FUD? It has no intrinsic value. I can't buy anything with it. And honestly, I made like 10 slides of FUD questions. But like I said, AI said you guys don't listen that long. So I'm hoping some of these questions come up in the Q&A, because I'm hoping those are curious, real things and just not regurgitated things that we often hear. An age of abundance is coming, and Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. And this is how I see it, okay? You saw that compounded annual growth rate. If any other asset isn't beating that, I'm really not involved with it. And I know I'm the exception to the rule. Practically 90% of my wealth is in Bitcoin. And I've been doing Bitcoin since around 2014. And like I said, I made some really dumb mistakes. But that's how I see it. And I view this the same way as an opportunity like the Homestead Act. And that we are all still so early, even at the price of $94,000 today. Here's my call to action. I'm not asking you to buy Bitcoin. I'm not saying you need to convert your whole life to it. I'm really just asking you to pay attention to it. Do a little bit of research. Learn about it. Observe the fiat decay around you. Look at the things in our lives today that have really gone down. The number of businesses that are closing. You know, talk to somebody in the trades, and someone in the trades will tell you. My father-in-law is a home builder, and he tells me all the time, I can't get straight lumber anymore. It's got knots in it, you know, and at the same time, the price has gone up. Think of your energy as a moral value. Carry effort through time. And incorporate things in your life that do that. You know, I have a 6-year-old daughter. And if I'm 53, and if I'm not at the top of my game, she whoops me. Okay? Because she is a little ball of volatility. And for me to keep up with her, my time and energy needs to be spot on, and I need to find a way to project that into the future. Okay? By eating right, trying to stay fit, things like that. In 2034, 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined, approaching a point of absolute scarcity, which I believe will be in the year, 2034. At that point in time, Bitcoin is going to be boring. It is going to be passé. And you may have missed it, okay? And so my challenge to you is, if you have children right now, they're going to grow up and they're going to know what Bitcoin is. And they might ask you, hey, what did you do during the Bitcoin gold rush of 2025 to 2035? What's going to be your answer? Because everybody can participate. This is a quote from the CEO of Strategy, a company where he's allocated a lot of his wealth in Bitcoin. He said, you want an asset few understand, everybody needs, and nothing and no one can stop. So think about Facebook, Twitter, Amazon. You know, I remember thinking when Amazon first came out, why Amazon? Why can't I just go to the library? Twitter. Why am I going to say something in 74 characters or less? That just sounds dumb. Facebook. Why do I want to post my personal life all over the place where everybody can see? To me, they seemed like ridiculous ideas. But look at them today. Think about that. An asset few people understand, everybody needs, and nothing and no one can stop. You have a local resource here. Okay? Bismarck Bitcoin. Bart right there runs the local Bitcoin meetup every third Saturday of the month at the Innovation Barn in Mandan. Bart is a wizard on the technical side of Bitcoin, but he's also an educator. And right now they're doing a course on My First Bitcoin curriculum. And it's fun, it's educational, and hopefully I won't show up and derail the whole thing. Okay? I think the last time I showed up there, we went down this rabbit hole about how North Dakota could secede from the Union and we could be our own country because we have all the resources we need, you know. So hopefully I'm not there and you get a good educational experience. But I advise you to connect with Bart if it's something you're interested in. He's a great educator, super humble guy, will really help you through your Bitcoin journey. So thank you. This is what it's like to be a Bitcoiner. It's not easy, but it's fun. So, did I meet the 15-minute requirement, Evan?
We've got a few minutes for questions. All right. Donovan, thank you. Thank you. All right, Ross. Ross has the microphone. So, questions. Let's hear them. Shania.
Okay, so selfishly, I'm sitting here thinking about this from a personal perspective, but then I realized we're a group of entrepreneurs. So how does Bitcoin fit into a small business's like portfolio? Like, what does that actually look like nuts and bolts?
It really depends on that business's goals and what they're needing. It's very personal. And when we first meet with the company, we basically we kind of do our research before we meet with you. It's not like this, hey, small chit chat stuff. We come in like, oh, you're involved in HVAC. Okay, we'll do some research. Okay, here are your capital expenses. Here are your operating expenses. Here are the number of clients you're meeting per month. Here, and we propose some ideas that might work for you. Some of them may work, some of them may not, and you can use it as kind of a strategic reserve, which we found a lot of businesses do. Instead of keeping their money in high yield savings or CDs or those cash equivalents where they realize they're losing money, that they just store it in Bitcoin.
Cool.
Yeah, great presentation. A question for someone that might not have like $94,000 underneath their bedroom mattress. I guess what would you recommend as a strategy to kind of begin to invest in what you just covered?
So with Bitcoin, you'll often hear the DCA, dollar cost averaging. Okay, to buy frequently, and you could buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy $10, $5, $20 worth, and we advise that strategy just because of the volatility of Bitcoin. That if you constantly buy instead of trying to time the market, as long as you keep accumulating an asset that is asymmetrically volatile to the upside, it'll work out for you. You know, if you hold this. Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
I'm back. I'm sorry. In a very brief, can you briefly describe how Bitcoin is a limited asset? I guess I don't understand mining and how in the heck it has a limit to it.
Okay, I'm going to get a little philosophical here. So Bitcoin adheres to the natural law of thermodynamics, the first law of thermodynamics, which is energy can neither be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. So through electrical energy, Bitcoin mining, this computer that is trying to solve this problem, it converts electrical energy into monetary energy. And that code, the rules on the Bitcoin blockchain say, hey, there will only be 21 million. It cannot be changed. Those are the rules, and that's what codifies it.
So some kind of an asymptotic thing going on, so that
Yes.
sooner or later it's virtually
Yes.
all. Okay.
Yeah, and one of the big principles is it's also deflationary. So over time, right now, every 10 minutes, a Bitcoin block is mined that has all the transactions and also the Bitcoin block reward, which is now 3.125 Bitcoin. In 4 years from now, around March 2028, that supply will be cut in half. So in every 10 minutes, 1.56 Bitcoin will be created. So it's deflationary by nature. The last Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2140.
Way out on the asymptote.
Yeah.
Quantum tunnel. Yes.
Hey there, Donovan.
Hey,
Thank you
Bart.
very much for your presentation. I can see the passion in your educational effort, and thank you for being here. I was excited to hear that your consulting company deals with nonprofits. Can you give an example of how Bitcoin has been helpful for nonprofits, please?
Yes. And nonprofits, what are our go-tos? And I deal with a lot of small ones, schools, churches, youth sports organizations. What is their go-to? Selling pizzas, gun raffles, those types of things, you know. And instead of wasting a lot of physical and human capital, you know, if you take some of your registrations and you put it into Bitcoin, you can outpace all of those fundraising efforts that you're constantly doing with the pizza sales or those kinds of things. And especially for churches, this really resonates with them. You know, the Bible says, you know, our money should consist of equal weights and measures. And when they add Bitcoin, they realize the importance of that, you know, and to talk about kind of like the social side of things, we have an epidemic of nihilism, wage stagnation, all these things that affect us very, very personally. And we feel that, hey, if we're able to fix the money, we can fix the world with a lot of these things going on. You know, I have 3 sons, and right now they are priced out of buying a home. You know, but they're Bitcoiners, so, and that helps. So, and that's also kind of the social message of Bitcoin is, hey, there's hope and there's a chance, and especially for nonprofits, it's very powerful because of how it appreciates over time.
Cool. Yes.
So I might have like kind of a 2-part question. First question is like, what happens when the last Bitcoin is mined? Is it going to be as kind of volatile as it is? And then also kind of what causes that volatility? Because I remember when it was at like 40,000, it goes to 80, and you know, it moves.
Here's the thing. Slow theft is safe. Fast honesty is scary. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Our markets operate 1,492 hours a year, traditional financial markets. Bitcoin is a global asset that operates 24/7, 365, 8,700 and something odd hours. 24/7, 365. Volatility is not risk. Volatility is price discovery. Okay? Volatility is price discovery. It's a new asset. It's going to be volatile. Gold took centuries to stabilize. Okay? Food is volatile. Energy is volatile. But they're volatile because they're measured against a dollar that is going down. The measuring stick is melting. Okay? So yes, it's a new asset. Of course it's going to be volatile. And right now, you know, my wife was like, because she's not a Bitcoiner, she's always harassing me. She's like, Bitcoin's down 30%. And I was like, that's it? Because in the past, it's gone down 50, 60, 80%. But over time, with the global tailwinds that I showed you and the adoption that's going on between nation states, banks, institutions, pension funds, that volatility is diminishing. That volatility is, and it's going to continue diminishing, as are the returns. Okay, you know, I said, hey, it's probably about 56% compounded annual growth rate over 10 years. That is also going to diminish. So I see it going to 20 to 30% after the year 2032, in my opinion. That's just me.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. So if you've got some questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, Donovan, you want to hang out down here for a few and field those? Okay. But before we do that, Ross, do you want to ask our final question?
Absolutely. Thanks for your presentation. I know it was interesting for me. I definitely learned some things that I didn't know. So what can we as the 1 Million Cups community do to help you continue to succeed?
I just ask that you use your energy as a moral value. And I think if we all do that, we start to look at things through a different lens. We stop buying consumable garbage. We start thinking how to project ourselves generationally instead of how am I going to live tomorrow? How am I going to get through that? And I think if you do that and think about, hey, if I fix the money, can I fix the world? And that's where we come from. And I think that's a good way to live, okay? Not the notion of, you know, a lot of people get this wrong. They say the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not, actually. And we don't love money. Money gives you optionality, okay? But we want the optionality to thrive, just not to get from day to day. So how can you support me? Fix the money, fix the world. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Thank you. All right, we're going to do a quick look ahead. Next week we've got rhetoric here, or rhetoric art, which is going to be an awful lot of fun, a really different take on some art that I think you're going to like. Giving Hearts Day here on January 28th. We're going to hear from a couple of participants, 3 actually, in Giving Hearts Day, and learn a little bit more about them. And then we've got Enlighten Healthcare on February 4th. So we've got a full calendar. I think we're booked out into April already, so things are looking good. We got a great start to our 13th year here at 1 Million Cups. If you want to connect with us, if you aren't already, Facebook is a great way to. Facebook is a great way to keep an eye on what's coming. You know, we keep all that up to date there. Or actually, Maddie does. Thank you, Maddie. YouTube is our new streaming platform for these. So if you can't make it, but you're still available, you're traveling, whatever, or want to catch an old episode, if you will, that's a great place to do it. And then we also have a LinkedIn presence. So a lot of ways to connect with us. And that's it. Thank you guys. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week. You bet. Thank you. Appreciate it.